Thanks, Eleni.
So, I mean, let's just start off by looking at the overall tobacco industry, because I know from around 2001 to around 2008, no real numbers can come through where we can see what production looked like in Zimbabwe. Now we're looking at some tangible numbers, and Zimbabwe is going from strength to strength.
Definitely. If you look, I think we hit rock bottom 3 years ago at just under 50 million kilos of tobacco. But since last year, we've had a serious rebound. We exited just around 140 million. And this year, we expect to be around 150 million kilos.
And of course, your biggest export partner is China.
Yes.
45% of what you export actually goes
Correct.
to China.
Correct.
Tell us about the contracts and how that actually works. And I know that there's been a lot of changes with regards to the production of tobacco relative to the contracts and the way that tobacco is sold.
We actually innovated the whole idea of contract production of tobacco in Zimbabwe. We had seen the change in land tenure that was coming along, and we could see that the new farmer wouldn't be able to finance their crop. So we approached the government to try and incorporate contract production of tobacco, because historically it was exclusively auction tobacco. And it was a 2-year journey, an arduous journey. They didn't believe it would work. The pundits of doom felt it was going to be an opportunity for the former commercial farmers to externalize scarce foreign currency from Zimbabwe. But there were people who believed in it, saw the merits in it. And 2 years later, we even had one of our greatest now competitors in cigarette manufacturing coming on board with us to start facilitating contract growing of tobacco for farmers.
And now it's a dual method that is used
Correct.
in Zimbabwe.
Correct.
So you moved away from the traditional methodology.
Correct. And 2 years ago, in fact 3 years ago, 70% of what was grown through contract. Without beating our own chest, we say, had we hadn't gotten the support of government to allow the contracting of tobacco, the 50 million kilos would probably have been 15 million kilos. So it's played the greatest part in terms of making sure that there's a serious rebound in the tobacco crop in Zim.
Savanna Tobacco has been around for 10 years.
Yeah.
You essentially started in 2002.
Correct.
In the middle of all the volatility and tumultuous times in
Correct.
Zimbabwe.
Correct.
Tell us about that journey, because it seems that you've actually overcome a lot of the challenges that were experienced locally. And not only that, you also assisted a lot of the smaller farmers to ensure that they kept growing.
Correct. I mean, sometimes they say when you throw in a lemon, make lemonade. And that's basically what we did. That time it was difficult. There were all sorts of issues playing out in Zimbabwe. But in adversity, there's opportunity. And we focused on the opportunity. I've always been a strong believer in beneficiation. And I felt it was sad that Zimbabwe, as a big producer of tobacco, was only exporting it as raw tobacco. And I saw an opportunity for an African player to come in, beneficiate that tobacco, and start that drive towards creating an African dignity.
Well, what is the uptake of that product that you're actually creating, as opposed to just exporting raw tobacco? And is there an actual demand on a global level, because there is just so much competition that is occurring?
Sure. I mean, when you look at it, there's a 3 times multiplier from exporting raw tobacco to exporting cigarettes. So the impact is significant in that, one, it creates employment. I mean, we've created over 250 direct jobs from the time we started. And, you look downstream at exports. I mean, we've contributed more than $100 million of exports since we started. That's in cigarettes. We've contributed extensively in terms of taxation, in terms of excise duties, in terms of the VATs, in terms of additional employment taxes. So it plays a significant contribution.
Adam, there are a lot of small-scale farmers that come to the fore, around 70,000 or so. They account for around 65% of total crop that is produced. Are you expecting consolidation within this industry?
You know, I think it's actually great that this has happened, because what it's creating is a middle class. Historically, you had 4,500 farmers who were producing for the whole nation, averaging probably 180,000 per farming family. Now you've got 60 to 70,000 families. Now that means you've got these families earning on average 10 to 15,000 US dollars each, which is now creating a middle class. You now have 60, 70,000 families now able to buy a TV. You now have 50 to 60,000 families now able to buy furniture. Now, what is the multiplier effect? You had 4,500 farmers buying these consumer products. Now you've got 15 times the number of people now buying. So for the economy, it's phenomenal.
Okay, within the emerging market space, we know that the rules aren't very stringent when it comes to smoking here in South Africa, as you might have experienced during your visit here. Things changing quite rapidly. We're seeing different things happening in Canada where you cannot actually write the label of the cigarette on the box.
Yes.
Are you worried about a lot of the regulatory changes, or do you think that Africa is going to be last to follow the lead?
Africa is last to follow the lead, but I still see that as an opportunity too. You know, as I look, there's more opportunity in terms of non-differentiation. Look, what we've done to make sure that we're ready for that is we've come in and we've said, how do we differentiate ourselves? We've created Afrocentric products. We've created products that now bring dignity to the African smoker, where before they'd buy traditional, call it 20, 30 packs. We've now introduced packs which allow somebody who's low income to buy cigarettes in a pack, but 2s or 5s or 10s. And so create an element of dignity where they walk in, whether it's in a bar, whether it's in a restaurant, and also put their pack on the table, because they're also proud of holding something tangible rather than the traditional loose stick. So FCTC, as it's called, yes, it does create some challenges, but for us, we've seen it creating opportunity.
As I mentioned, 45% of tobacco exports out of Zimbabwe go to China. Is that number going to diversify further into the rest of Africa? Because I know Savanna Tobacco is actually stationed in other countries as well, Namibia, Swaziland, Angola, Zambia, Mozambique.
We're supplying those markets, yes. You see, what's going to China is raw tobacco. What we're exporting into the region is value-added tobacco, and that's cigarettes. So China is importing the raw product, and this is where I really have a challenge, in that as Africa, we've always been an exporter of raw commodities. And my quest and my drive and my belief is we need to go up the value chain and start exporting finished products. And that's why we're exporting cigarettes.